The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable by Dan Gutman. Welcome back, warrior friends. We are ready for chapter 12 in our story, and it's titled Ups and Downs. I will meet you on the house on the rock? What the heck is that supposed to mean? Pep looked at the words she had written again. I never heard of a house on a rock, she whispered to her brother. There's probably thousands of houses that are built on rocks, Coke replied. Maybe it's another secret message that means something completely different. These Genius File people are so annoying, Pepsi complained. Why don't they just tell us what's going on? Why do they have to make us figure it out? This message doesn't necessarily come from them, Coke said. It could have come from anybody. Then who are we supposed to meet at the house on the rock? Pepsi asked, knowing she wasn't going to get an answer. And when? This message doesn't tell us anything. Well, we're just going to have to keep our eyes open, said Coke, ending the discussion. Dr. McDonald hopped onto Route 101 North through the city and picked up on Interstate 80 East as the RV crossed over the San Francisco Bridge. They were on their way now, and if they wanted to, they could just stay on I-80 all the way across the country. 1,547 miles until we get to the world's largest ball of twine, Mrs. McDonald said excitedly as she punched the data into her laptop. And 2,762 miles to Washington. Pepsi did a quick mental calculation. If they averaged 65 miles an hour, it would take them more than 42 hours to drive to Washington. That would be without stopping, of course. And once you added in sleeping and eating and stopping for gas and just getting out to stretch their legs, it could be closer to... Oh, she didn't even want to think about it. And then, after they got to Washington and went to the wedding, they would have to drive back the whole way home. It was going to be a long summer. Pepsi was already bored, and the trip had just begun. Coke turned on his iPod and got lost in his music, and he was mindlessly shuffling the playing cards that Bones had given them. The McDonalds were cruising along I-80 for a little more than 50 miles when they started to see signs for a leisure town and Nut Tree Airport. Dr. McDonald pulled onto Interstate 505 North. Where are you going, Dad? Coke asked. Why are you getting off of I-80? Ask your mother, he said, grumbling. We are going to the National Yo-Yo Museum, Mrs. McDonald exclaimed. It's only about 2 hours from here. We are driving 2 hours out of our way to look at some yo-yos? Coke asked, slapping himself on his forehead. Not just some yo-yos, hundreds of yo-yos, glow-in-the-dark yo-yos, see-through yo-yos, Flintstones yo-yos, Star Wars yo-yos. The National Yo-Yo Museum has everything from antique 1920 yo-yos to today's metal alloy yo-yos with a centrifugal clutch transaxle. Whatever that is. Mrs. McDonald gasped as the family walked inside the bird-in-hand and educational toy store in Chico, California, where the National Yo-Yo Museum is located. This was her kind of place. Feast your eyes, kids, Mrs. McDonald said, pulling out her camera to document the majesty of it all. You are standing in front of the world's largest yo-yo. It was a monster of a thing. It was 256 pounds, and the string unrolled was 75 feet long. A little plaque on the floor said the Big Yo, and it was used only a few times. Once it was dropped off of a crane over the San Francisco Bay, and the world's largest Pez dispenser is bigger, Coke said, unimpressed. He knew all about yo-yos, of course. Having once seen an article about them while he was bagging up newspapers for recycling. He told his family that the yo-yo was invented in China and the Greeks had them way back in 500 BC. Fascinating, said Dr. McDonald. I hope this museum doesn't get any government funding. Hey, this is real history, Dad, Yo-Yo told him. You know, legend has it that Filipino hunters would hide in trees and hunt animals by bonking them on the head with a yo-yo from up above. And during the French Revolution, people who were to be guillotined would ease their tensions by playing with yo-yos. Oh, I know if I was about to get my head chopped off, Dr. McDonald replied, that I'd want to use some time to play with a toy on a string. The kids watched videos of people doing insane yo-yo tricks. There were some simple yo-yos on display, and Coke and Pepsi tried to do the tricks with limited success. After a short time, the kids had had enough yo-yoing, and they went out to the parking lot to look for something to do, while Mrs. McDonald conducted her yo-yo research for her amazing but true website. Their dad had left the RV door unlocked as usual, so Coke went in and he grabbed the frisbee that Bones had given them. He held it out to Pep. Do you want to? Pep told her brother. I don't know how. In a few days, you're going to be 13 years old, Coke told his sister. It's about time you learned how to throw a frisbee. It's a life skill. Everybody should have it. He handed her the disc, and he backed up about 10 yards and urged her to give it a try. She flung it wildly, of course, curving it off to the side and almost hitting a parked car. Hold it level, Coke tried to instruct her as he ran off to retrieve the frisbee. Don't use your arm. Put your whole body into it and snap your wrist, like this. He made a perfect return toss, which Pepsi dropped. One more time, he encouraged her. Pepsi tried to do as her brother said and proceeded to fling the frisbee high up into a grove of trees next to the parking lot. You are totally pathetic, Coke said to his sister. Come on, help me find it. They ran into the woods and they started poking around. A white frisbee shouldn't be that hard to find in a grove of green trees. But it wasn't there, or at least it wasn't within sight. It's got to be right here, Pepsi said. I saw it go into the trees. You owe me $10 if we have to get a new one, Coke told her. I do not, she replied. You didn't pay for that frisbee. Bones gave it to you. And at that moment, the twins walked around a thick maple tree. There was a rustling noise from up above, and then suddenly everything went dark. Something had fallen on their heads. What the? It was a large plastic tarp, the kind that people put under their tent when they go camping. Somebody had grabbed them and wrapped two big arms around the tarp to prevent them from getting away. Shh! Quiet! A man's voice said. Help! Pepsi tried to yell, but the sound was muffled by the tarp that was over her face. Keep your mouths shut, and you won't be hurt, the man barked. The twins struggled for a few seconds, but soon it became obvious that it was hopeless, and they stopped fighting. That's when their assailant pulled the tarp up off their heads and revealed himself. It was Bones. The McDonald twins gasped. Is this what you were looking for? A woman's voice said. The twins gasped for a second time when they saw who was standing behind Bones with a frisbee in her hand. It was Maya, the woman in red who had saved their lives when they were being chased on the cliff by the men in the golf carts. You're alive? Pepsi asked, her eyes wide with wonder. We thought that you died when the building exploded, Coke told Bones. I was down in the basement, Bones said. All I got was a flesh wound. Aren't all wounds flesh wounds? Coke asked. What else would you wound but flesh? We thought that the dark killed you, Maya, Pepsi said, hugging her. We thought you died in our arms. Well, the poison wore off in just a few minutes, Maya informed them. I was fine. I returned your backpacks to school for you. Pepsi thought back and remembered that what had happened on the cliff just moments after Maya collapsed, and suddenly she turned and she punched her brother in the stomach. "Oh!" Coke exclaimed. "Are you crazy? What did you do that for?" "Because you pushed me off that cliff," his sister yelled. "I was trying to save your life," Coke yelled back at her. "Well, even if they hit me with one of those dart things, I would have survived," Pepsi yelled again. "Maya survived. You didn't have to push me, and we didn't have to go over that cliff." Okay, I'm sorry," Coke said, rubbing his sore stomach. "How was I supposed to know that? She looked pretty dead to me. I know I just had to make a snap decision. Give me a break." Bones stepped in between the angry twins. "You did the right thing by pushing your sister off the cliff," he told Coke. "If you two had been captured there, you wouldn't be alive today. I'm quite sure of that." "Look, we don't have time for pleasantries," Maya interrupted. "I'm sure your parents are wondering where you are. We have some important information for you." "Is it about the house on a rock?" "What?" Bones replied. "What house on a rock?" "Well, didn't you put the envelope under my pillow last night with a coded message about meeting you on the house on the rock?" Coke asked. "No," Bones replied. "You must be confusing me with the Tooth Fairy." "Listen carefully," Maya said. We found something out that is critical for your survival. Some of the people who were involved in the Genius Files have abandoned our cause and are now actively opposed to us and the program that Dr. Warsaw created. Your health teacher, Mrs. Higgins, is one of them. But there are others." "Like those bowler dudes?" Pepsi asked. "Right," said Maya. "We don't know why these people are trying to kill you, but we're going to find out." "How about finding out fast?" Coke said. "Like before they actually do kill us?" "Well, we're trying our hardest," Bones told him. "But in the meantime, you have your first mission. We intercepted a text message late last night. There's going to be a terrorist attack." "Where?" Coke asked. "In the United States," Maya said. "Could you be more vague?" Coke asked. "It'll be at the site of the world's largest ball of twine," said Maya. "We're going there!" Pepsi exclaimed. "Our mother, she has this weird website called Amazing But True, and she's..." "We know," said Bones. "How do you know?" asked Coke. You'd be surprised how much we know," Maya replied. "But that's crazy," Pepsi said. "Who would attack the largest ball of twine in the world?" "The largest cat in the world?" suggested Coke. "I didn't say they were necessarily going to attack the ball of twine," Bones told them. "All we know is there's going to be an attack at the site of the largest ball of twine." "What are they going to do?" Coke asked. "We don't know," Bones said. "When are they going to do it?" Coke asked. "We don't know that either," said Bones. "Well, how come you know so much about us?" Pepsi asked, "but you don't know anything about them?" "We know that they're going to try to kill you," Maya said, "and they won't stop until they're successful, or until we kill them." "So, what are our instructions?" Coke asked. "Simple. Stop the attack," Bones replied. "But why can't you stop the attack?" Pepsi asked. "Well, we're going to try to get there also," Maya said, "but there are other Genius Files children, and we're monitoring them. We can't be everywhere at all times." "How are we supposed to stop the attack?" Pepsi asked. "All we know is where it will be. We don't even know when. We don't know how." "I'm sure you'll think of something," Bones interrupted her. "You're geniuses, right?" "Well, that's why you were chosen." "We have to leave," Maya said. "Not a word of this to anyone." And that's where the chapter ends for today. I hope they can figure it out in time.